to Mongols. Welcome to Mongols. We are here tonight to talk about a couple different games that happened this weekend, but happy 4th of July weekend to those of you who choose to celebrate. And we had quite the weekend. Regardless of kind of what you're looking at, we had quite the weekend. But I'm Justin. I'm here with Steve, here with Kaz, here with Josh. Gentlemen, how was your weekend? How were your weekends? How are things going this weekend? I don't know who wants to start. Well, Steve, why don't you give us your wrap up of the weekend?
Overall, pretty good. Fun night at the game. Spending some time with a friend throughout the weekend, and so that's been really good. And hey, the Hounds won, so that's always a fun time, and I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Josh, how about you? How was your weekend?
It was good. I actually went to an early movie this morning before, early showing of matinee of Jurassic World Rebirth, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's a great movie if you like dinosaurs, like any human would. I would suggest going to see it.
Kaz, how about you? How was your weekend?
It was okay. The game. Friday was long. It was so long. Josh and I are still pretty red, I see, from that. Then yesterday, I pretty much did nothing. I just sat on the couch all day. Today, I've done a little more, but yeah, overall, decent weekend. Nothing, just long.
All right. Well, here's the question: did anybody have a hot dog this weekend?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple hot dogs. I actually didn't. I didn't have a hot dog, but I had a couple burgers. So it kind of same difference, whatever. Anyway,
I had both.
There you go. There you go. So I obviously was not in Pittsburgh this weekend, so I did not get to spend the day at the stadium. But love to just get, I guess, for my own good, love to get a little, I don't know. How was the day? How was the entire day of tailgating and games and all of that? Josh, why don't we start with you? How was the day?
Well, okay. So for those who don't know, not only did we have the Riveters game, but there was also another game in the W League playing at Highmark. That one started at 10 a.m. And so I thought, why not go to both? Because that'd be fun. So getting to the stadium at like 9:30 a.m., setting up, deciding not to set up for tailgate until after the Riveters game, which means we went in and then there's like no shade because it's pretty early. All the places where I usually hide from the sun are unavailable to me. So I'm like hiding in the cantina, the old pub, to just try to not burn for the rest of the day. So yeah, it was a long day, starting with that and then going straight into the Riveters game. And then from there having the tailgate, which was like an early tailgate for the Hounds. Like I think I got out, what time the Riveters game let out? Like
I think I got out there a little after 3.
Yeah, so like usually a tailgate starts at 4. So then tailgating like normal and then straight into the Hounds game, straight into fireworks. And then tailgating for the third time because there's no way you get out of that parking lot after fireworks. For a good hour and a half, we just hung out. Like there was backed up traffic, like no one was leaving the stadium at all. So we're like,
wild.
Why sit in a car when we can just hang out? And so we set up a little mini tailgate, had chips and dip and cake pops. And it was just like, let's just hang out and wait. And yeah, so we got home around midnight 30.
So I am now feeling really glad that I missed out on getting parking earlier in the week because I couldn't get it. So I parked in the garage and somehow I got on the second level of the garage at like 4:00. And I was probably like out of town within 15 minutes from when I got to my car.
Did you watch the fireworks?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was
Okay,
after
cool.
the fireworks. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you were like just
no.
fireworks.
Like, the fireworks are great. Like, what's
Yeah.
better than watching the fireworks from the stadium where you've got the bridge behind it, like, or in front of it, like they're right behind the bridge? Beautiful.
Nice.
I did leave before the fireworks.
Gaz is like done.
I'm out.
The game was over. I had been there since like noon. I think I got there a little before the Riveters game, and it was just and then like the game was over. We did the victory selfie, everything, and then I like looked at the time and I was like, "You're telling me I have to sit here for another half an hour at least before the fireworks start?" I was like, "No, I'm out."
There you go. That's probably the way to do it. I don't know. It is like you either decide I'm out. I'm just gonna skip most of the fireworks, or you decide I'm gonna pull out the chips and dip and do it in the parking lot. So.
Yeah. So I want to say one other thing about the day in that sense that during the autograph session, one of the things that was absolutely amazing to watch was Eric Dick was standing right on the Riverside corner of the 18-yard box. And it was both great because people lined up on the line for the 18-yard box all the way to the grandstands. And so there's this super long line. And this line is still almost to the sideline when the autograph session ends. But Eric stuck out there for another 20 minutes or so. I mean, the lights were off by the time he finished signing autographs, taking pictures. He's taking pictures with people in the dark. And I think like he was signing the last one as the fireworks started. And so it was just a ton of fun to watch and see that, because it's like everybody else is gone and he's just still sitting there. Just great with the fans. Absolutely loved it. But also that like it was so orderly. It was amazing to watch because you never see the autograph session look so orderly.
Yeah. It would be funny, like at some point if they made lines for each player and you just see these vertical lines like across like the horizontal lines across the field.
Just disheartening for some players. I'm sure they're like, come on.
Oh, my line's like 4 people. What's up with this? What's going on? No, I don't know. I'm this was one of those days that I was really torn about not being in Pittsburgh anymore and not being able to be there because we know that we would have been there the whole day if we had if we'd been in Pittsburgh. But it was nice to we watched the Riveters game on Laurel and Sisters like back deck, in the shade, in like, a pretty cool temperature, all that kind of stuff. I watched the first half of the Riverhounds game in the car and then watched the second half. And then I was able to go to bed as soon as it was over. So it was awesome. It was great.
So with that said, I will say that it was nice to have 4th of July game back. It's a long day. It's a crazy day, but like maybe 3 games was too many games to do on 4th of July. And maybe I won't do that again, but I do think it was a lot of fun to have that tradition back because it's been gone for so long.
2019 was the last time we had one, I think.
It was 18 or
yep. On the broadcast, on the broadcast, they said we had 6 straight from 2013 to 2019, and then 2019 was the last year we had one.
That's wild. We had one planned for 2020, and then the schedule got changed with COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's wild to think that it was gone for so long, and having it back. And I there's many Hounds fans and Rivers fans that never experience the 4th of July. So like at Highmark, and the perks of being able to, like, if you get parking, you can get a parking pass there, and then you don't have to worry about finding parking in the city. You can watch it from the stadium, so you don't have to worry about finding a place to watch it. It's such a nice tradition that I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we get too far into the soccer, Josh, you have to get us started before we talk about the soccer stuff.
I can't do that before talking about the Riveters, though.
Okay, fine. We'll wait.
We'll wait.
Right,
I don't want to do it and then talk about a loss. All
right, that's fine. No, that's cool. That's cool. We'll wait. Why don't we get started with Laura Ellen's thoughts about the Riveters?
And now, hey sir, 1-minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
Not much to say. Ugh, what a tough loss. What a tough way to end the season, but so proud of this team and these women and this organization. And we're going to be back at them next year, and we're going to do amazing. Let's go, Riveters!
This has been Hey Sir, 1-minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
What you couldn't see in that video is I was getting stuff out of the trunk as she was filming that video. So we removed the kids, so we had the empty car seat, and then I was getting stuff out of the trunk while she was. She's like, "Hold on, I got to record this real quick." Oh, all right, cool.
That's great.
Kaz, let's start with you. Takeaways from this game. You and Liz have been talking about this team all season long. So takeaways from this game.
I mean, you could tell that we were missing half the starting lineup. That was apparent from the start, and probably our best players on the season.
Mhm.
I mean, between Tatum and D'Amico and Pauline, even though Caitlin had a great game, but Pauline not being there was just a glaring, like, right off the bat. Really, the only part of the field that wasn't impacted was our defense. And I think the defense had a good game. It just, it was against a team that is probably one of, if not the best in the league. And, it kind of felt like this was honestly, 2-0 was like, I was not upset at just 2-0 at the end of the game. I was like, all right, we held them to 2. That's well, we weren't completely embarrassed, basically, missing half of our starting lineup.
Yeah, I think that was interesting because I think the comment that I made on Slack right after the game was we felt panicky, and I didn't realize that we were missing 5 starters, which now totally makes sense why we felt panicky throughout the game. But it was like, so often this season you've seen them move the ball, ping the ball around, pass the ball around, and they just didn't seem to be able to do that. It was a lot of long balls, which they've done throughout the season, but not to the level they did it in this game, where Minnesota seems so composed, passing the ball around, finding space, creating space, all that kind of stuff. So it felt like an interesting game from that point. Steve, what about you? What are your takeaways from this game?
No, I mean, I think I'm really proud of the season that they've had for them. I think they showed a lot of grit and a lot of determination and overcame some adversity. And I think even in this game, you started to see that despite some of the things that I think could have been better. I don't think either of those goals were easy goals for Minnesota. And I think it just is that end product when you're missing some of the players that you've been relying on all season to put the ball in the back of the net, and not having that, having players in that haven't had as many chances, that haven't had as many repetitions on the ball, that makes it tough. And Minnesota was absolute class on the day. And so I agree with Kaz, right? Like, this is not a game to feel any shame of. There's a lot of things going against you in that and a lot of things going for them in that. And it's a good opportunity to grow and learn for these women. And I think a lot of these women will hopefully be back next year and be able to take those lessons into next year. And that's exciting to see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Josh?
Little bit less rosy, but not for the Riveters. It's actually like, that first goal was offside. So like, I don't know, maybe better officiating would have helped us out here. Apparently there's some history with that ref too, with the Riveters, because he's refed a lot of the academy games and always seems to have it out for the Riveters. So there's a reason why he gave a yellow card to Scotty. Like I feel like Scotty had his number from the start, and was giving him heck for that. And then like the yellow on Vozar, I didn't think it was rough, but I don't know. I thought it was 50-50 and like shoulder to shoulder. So overall, that's one thing about this league. It's just I want to see them get out of this league and go up, because I feel like the officiating will be better. Than also, we won't be missing 5 of our starters, because when they're not getting paid, it's not a professional league. They're there for a certain amount of time. It's like, oh, you made the playoffs. Well, sorry, like, we have other commitments, which understandably why they can't make it. But if we were in a higher up league, we would have contracts in place. We would have, it would be taken more seriously and more professionally. So I just think overall, it felt more like a pre-professional league because of all that. And I know that, Riveters deserve better than that.
Yeah.
I like that take.
Yeah.
Go pro.
Go pro, yeah, please go pro. And like, I know there's also talk though, like, even if they do go pro, do they keep the W League team? Like, will we still have a Riveters team in the W League? And it is an interesting conversation, because like, I think some of these players that played this year, they should be going pro. And like, we are not going to see them next year because they deserve to be in a higher up league. And hopefully this got them seen, and they will be able to get a, contract with a professional team. I just want that professional team to be the Riveters. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I would agree with kind of the start of your take though, of like, hey, this is none of the negative feelings about this game have to do with the team necessarily. And, you can feel hard done by the ref, and I think you can and probably should feel hard done by the ref. But also they played the game that they needed to and just got beat by a better team on the day, and maybe a better team overall, but better team on the day for sure. And so I think you feel positive about that, and you take away what you can, and you go forward into next season and do what you can to be successful again next season. And a lot of these players, I think, could have the opportunity to be back and be playing for this team again. So those are all positive things. Steve, another takeaway, anything else you wanted to comment about this game?
No, back to the Scott yellow card. I think that was the only other thing that really stuck out to me. And it sticks out to me because it was so shocking for me to see a coach get a yellow card in that type of situation when for years I've seen so much worse from a back bench and no yellow cards. It's just like, why is he getting a yellow card?
I honestly do think it was more of a history thing than anything. I think him and good old Zach, our middle ref, have a history. So I feel like it might have been just like, you're always giving me crap, and I'm always giving you, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt more like a history thing than an actual deserved yellow there.
Yeah.
Personal beef.
Yes.
Kaz, any other thoughts on this game as you think of takeaways or things about this game?
No, I just keep coming back to, I can't be upset about this. Like, I think the only thing that I can maybe be upset about, aside from obviously the officiating, is just the, like, what was the planning? Like, why did all of the starters have to leave? Was that something that could have been foreseen in some way? And hopefully maybe next year that'll be avoided. Let them take a vacation halfway through the season and come back like Piper, if that's what it takes to have them there for playoffs. But, I don't know what exactly everyone left for, but yeah, that was a little frustration there, but it is what it is.
You do get a sense that especially the players and probably their families didn't know what this was going to be. Like, the city showed up, the stadium was full. Like, they even had some really bad rain games, and the stadium was still pretty full for a rain game. And, like, I think they were just shocked that the support they got and, like, what it was. And, like, you didn't see that anywhere else, really, in our division, at least. Like, the people weren't showing up 5,000, strong to these games for any other team. And I don't know what it's like in other conferences or whatever. Like, I only saw obviously the games they played, so I got a feeling that's probably the case for all teams in this league. So it is kind of like, wow, this was a lot more big than we thought it was going to be.
I think there's a few teams throughout the league that that have clear, like, long-term aspirations of going big. Minnesota's one of them, probably Oakland. There's a few teams that have made a point that they're like, this is a short-term stepping stone to, hopefully a professional team down the road. Those kind of teams they advertise like we do and try to draw people in like we do. But for the most part, it is, a clear difference in attention between teams like the Riveters and teams like, Erie.
Yeah, and you wonder how much that comes down to finances. And you got teams like, Racing Louisville, their B team or under 23 team, or however you want to say it, is in the W League, but they're obviously their number one team or top team is in NWSL. So it's like, how much are they going to put to get people to come to the under 23 games when they have the NWSL games to get people to come to and all of that too. So I think there's lots of disparity in this league, and probably the parity is large when it comes to what finances are there, what attention is there, how much attention is going to be put there, and all that kind of stuff. It all creates the disparity there. If we don't have any more thoughts on the game, I guess we should let's do Mondo's moment, and then we'll talk about a little bit of the season at large.
It's time for Mondo's moment, the top moment of the game from the Mandalorian.
This week's Mondo moment from the Riveters playoff match comes in the 62nd minute when, after referee Zach Chipperfield uses more aggression to brandish the yellow than the tackle to earn it, Sabrina Bryan and Coach Scott Gibson look at each other and share a confused and slightly bemused shrug. This is the way.
This has been Mondo's moment.
I did enjoy that moment.
I was not prepared for that. I love it.
Zach. That's great.
Yes.
I did enjoy that moment. Sabrina being like, "What did I do?" And okay, whatever, move on. All right. Well, I gave you guys an assignment today. I thought it would be interesting to come up with kind of a one-word description, but then you can give some explainer of why that word was the word that you chose for the season at large. So, Josh, why don't we have you go first? What's your kind of one word description on the season, and then kind of why did you pick that word?
Expectations. I feel like that was a thing that was, at least within the Steel Army, kind of like tossed around a lot. Where the expectations were for the professionality of the league itself, the way the front office handled the team, and they all have different answers, and also the expectations of where they were going to land in the standings. Some lofty ones thrown out by staff, of course, by coaching staff. Didn't quite meet those lofty expectations, but at the same time, I feel like we landed somewhere pretty nice, and I personally don't have any qualms with anything as far as the season goes, but the expectations of the league, I definitely think are need to be level set for next year.
Yeah, and you don't know that going in, right? You got to like figure it out. You got to sense it. You got to even play a season, and then you kind of figure out, okay, this is what we're up against, and this is what we should hope to experience as we go into the next seasons and all of that. So I think that's a good thought. Kaz, what about you?
All right, to go for the pun, riveting. I just, it was, yeah. Liz didn't want to be here, so you guys got me. I think that, again, aside from Friday, I think the whole season was just exciting, both on and off the field. It was something new. It was just interesting. The style of play was, as we've talked about several times, just, different for us. And, a little more exciting and more goals and that kind of thing than we're kind of used to. So I think it was just overall, that I feel like, pun or not, fits the season.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's good. Steve?
Yeah, no, mine is fun. And I think, Kaz, you great analysis of the on the field stuff, but kind of going back to what we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, the fun environment that we brought and were able to support the team with, both in the Steel Army and other fans as well, and that just kind of setting the team apart was really great. It was fun to be at the stadium for the games that I was there that they played. And so I just it was a fun season. And I think that's also part of why, this game, it's a bummer not to see them advance, but it's been fun along the way. And just love that. I want to see more of that.
Yeah, my word was very similar. Mine was just exciting. I think it's exciting to see the way they played on the field. It's exciting to see fans come and support. That was one of my big kind of fears going into the season. Not that I thought it wouldn't happen, but I thought they're hyping this team so much, and if they get 2K at their first game, it's going to be really, really disappointing. And they didn't, and they got large crowds into the stadium for those games, and I think that's super good for women's sports. It's super good for the academy. It's good for just even the Riverhounds and having two teams, on both sides and all of that. I think all of that is just really, really good and really, really strong. And so I think it's just exciting to see where this can go in the future. And like Josh said, I hope they move up a league, because I think that'll take care of some of the problems and keep the energy high. But I think this was a great start, as we've moved forward. Any other thoughts kind of on the season at large, kind of what you experienced, what you're hoping for next season as we move towards 2026 Riveters?
Just excited.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that by this, before this time next year, before even the season next year, we'll hopefully have gotten word of like a Super League team or something, so that we can kind of, hopefully the W League season won't even be the peak of women's soccer next year for the Riveters. It'll be just kind of a nice appetizer heading into a full season in the fall, full professional season in the fall, and we can, kind of really get the ball rolling then.
Yeah, I just, it's nice to see women's soccer in Pittsburgh, and it's exciting to see the city show up for them. And I don't think there was any disappointed fans as far as what the season was like for them, other than the weather not cooperating. So a lot of the home games were drowned out, unfortunately. But I do think seeing the support that they got, and like the little rivalry with Steel City and the fun there, and actually I was surprised by seeing away fans coming to some of these games, which I did not expect at all. Steel City, obviously, I expected that one, and just it's a lot of fun. So I'm just excited to see where they go with this, because it does feel like there's a lot here to build off of, and I'm glad the experiment worked, and hopefully they grow it.
Yeah, it's fun just thinking about big teams around the world, and a lot of them have men's and women's teams and like all that kind of stuff, and the Riverhounds are building that, and as an organization, not the Hounds specifically, but the Pittsburgh Riverhounds organization is building that, and I think that's really fun as we move forward. So I'm excited to see where they go in the future. So that's our thoughts on the Riveters. It was a great season. It'll be fun to see what's happening as we get to the off season, and hopefully maybe even earlier on some announcements as far as players and all of that, and hopefully we'll see some of the women back who played this past year, and we can keep building a relationship with them and cheer them on and all of that. So then we move on to a game in the evening. New Mexico United comes into town to play the Riverhounds, and I guess, Josh, now you can get us started. There we go. Like it. I like it. I was just too excited earlier for that.
Now, Josh, is that beer thematic to the weekend colors?
It is a red, white, and blue version of a Yingling.
All right.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh boy.
So New Mexico United came to town. Riverhounds win the game 1-0. What a surprise. That's not the most surprising scoreline we've ever seen in our lives. I don't know. Steve, takeaway from this game and kind of what you saw.
I mean, I thought the guys played really, really well all across the field, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, we took a lot of shots and we had a lot of chances. And so that is also really encouraging. So now I think it's just, okay, take that, whatever is different. I've got some thoughts, but I'll save that for a little bit. But whatever is different, I think, like, take that going forward and now work on just that finishing, right? Like that finishing touch. Because this is a game where we could have had 4, 5, 6 goals the way we were getting the ball towards the net and off the post.
I was going to say that dang post.
Yes.
Dang post. Yeah, Kaz, how about your thoughts on this game? Takeaway from this game?
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way. It was definitely a more exciting game than we're used to for the Hounds, even. After watching the Riveters, that's seemed like they kind of switched places a little bit on Friday. They all those shots off the post and everything. It was lots of good chances. It just only got the 1 goal, but I mean, at the end of the day, definitely felt a lot better about that performance than some previously, and that I was feeling coming into the day.
Yeah, for sure. Josh?
Yeah, much was touted about the New Mexico and how great they are this season, and just like what to expect going into this game. I was, a little bit apprehensive about the game, but it definitely felt like the type of matchup that actually played well into Bob's wheelhouse as far as his tactics go. They are a very possessive heavy team. So yeah, it obviously, we've had games where us not having possession, we feel like, ooh, like I know the Hounds are okay with this, but at the same time, like it's a little bit unnervy. But this one didn't feel that way at all. It was definitely we're going to get a goal. I don't know. After so many opportunities, like obviously we could have been, struck and not had the luck that we needed, but it just felt like there was way too many opportunities in this game where we weren't going to get a goal. So when it finally did happen, and it took forever, when it finally did happen, it was an expected goal, not a surprise goal, in my opinion.
Yeah. One of the things the announcers, I don't know, 10 seconds into the game, I think New Mexico did that weird new strategy that everyone is doing with kicking the ball out of bounds off the kick. And then they, and so they said, New Mexico is going to be the possession heavy team in this game. They actually lead the league in possession. And so we're driving in the car and turn the light on and go, okay, good. We're going to win this game. And, and I was like, all right, good. Now I don't have to worry about this game. We're going to win because they love possession. And, so that's what happened. So I did that. First half, we hit the post a couple of times. Nothing. I mean, yes, they were dangerous because they hit the post, but it didn't. It felt like the first maybe 25 minutes of the game we were kind of soaking up some pressure, but then we kind of got back on the front foot and got a little bit more in control and playing our game a little bit more, and then we kind of. Like you said, Josh, we kind of like stayed in control after that to the point where we got the goal. I mean, there was a shot, comes off the keeper. Robbie finds the ball in the middle of the box, takes a touch, and finds the corner of the goal pretty easily, actually. He kind of had, for a touch right in the middle of the box, he kind of had all the time in the world to pick his spot and beat the keeper that way. So that felt good.
Yeah. No, I loved that goal because I thought it looked like this live from the other side of the field, but then going back and watching the highlights, numerous bodies in the box and numerous bodies, not just on the stepped into the box, but making moves and pulling the defenders towards them. So when he gets that rebound, it created a lot of space. I mean, I believe Augie was in the box, Danny was in the box, Robbie was in the box, Berton was in the box, and Barnes was in the box all at the same time. That's something that we just haven't seen. And I think even on some of the other chances, we were seeing some of those players or similar players in those positions that might have been starting and weren't some of those subs in those roles. And so lots of movement in the box makes a big difference. And we see that. And so I just keep doing that, guys. Like, just get in the box. You'll score.
Yeah. And you got to do that against a team that, when you get the ball and a team that has possession, a lot of possession, you got to go forward and you got to get a lot of bodies forward. Because if you do it quick, you're gonna have numbers against a team like that. So it was really good on that end. Kaz, what's another takeaway that you had from this game?
I'll tell you honest. I'll be honest. By the second half of that game, my brain was completely fried. Just standing out in the sun. I didn't go look for shelter or anything. I was just out there the whole time, and between the smoke and trying to wave a flag whenever I wasn't holding on to smoke, it was just. My brain was fried. So the second half of that game was just kind of a blur to me.
Yeah.
I was living a good vampire life. I was hiding from the sun as much as possible all day because I knew I was not going to survive unless I did. So I was actually, I think by the time the goal happened, I was finally in the supporters section because the sun had set enough that it was not blaring in our section. But the whole first half of the game, I was actually on the other side of the field towards the clubhouse side of things. And watching that, seeing basically Augie miss a hat trick worth of opportunities, as I believe someone in Discord said, in the Steel Army Discord, was disheartening. But it was also really nice to see him getting opportunities because usually he's just non-existent because no one can get him the ball or he can't find the ball. And then obviously we already talked about like the other opportunities, but the goal itself, I think they're New Mexico being a very possession heavy team. It was surprising to see how tired they looked. And like it came off a lazy pass. Like it was just like they were playing in the back and then passing it back to each other, and just having Danny be able to run up behind them and poach the ball from them. Then get it to Augie, and then Augie missing an opportunity. Well, okay, not a miss. He shot it, and the keeper deflected it away, right? And then it falling to Mertz, who actually got the goal. That whole situation, it just, I don't know. It shows New Mexico how like they just let off the gas. It did not feel like they were trying to win this game at all. It just felt like they were just hoping to just pass it around and leave with a point. At no point did I feel like they were actually trying to win this game.
Yeah, it felt like there were so many times throughout the game, and not everyone turned over in possession, but there were multiple times in the game where kind of some of those passes happened that I get the idea of what they're trying to do, that they're trying to play out of the back, that they're trying to, retain possession, all that kind of stuff. But when you get to the point that you're like, your center backs are pinned in the 6 or like that far back along the end line, and your wing backs are also kind of pinned that far back and all this kind of stuff, at some point you just got to get the ball up the field and like hope that you can win the second ball and then create possession from there. Because as soon as the guys at this level are not good enough to be passing around out of the back all game long like that. And I think that's where that mistake came from, Josh, is like, after a while, you're trying to find your second, third, fourth option of passes, and you just can't find it. And you just got to get the ball up the field, and they just couldn't. And so then, we create a turnover and all of a sudden have bodies crashing because of the pressure we were able to put on.
Yeah.
So I like that anyway. What else about this game, or do we want to start our discussion on top 3 players?
I'm game for top 3.
Okay. All right, Steve, you want to start us since your game?
Yeah, I thought Eric had a fantastic game. So I'm putting Eric Dick up there. He made some big saves, but more than that, he was really active, coming out, gobbling up balls before they could be shots. And he seemed to be really communicating well, I think, at a new level for me this game compared to some of the other season with some of the defenders. From where I was seeing, I could see him pointing and shouting at players to kind of close down space a little bit more than I've noticed in the past. So I really like that about his game.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, you say, I feel like every year other than this, we've always had like a kind of veteran defender that's kind of leading the defense in some way, shape, or form. And so the goalkeeper doesn't have as much communication to do. But between Dick and Suber, like, that's your veterans. So, like it is interesting to see him kind of leading a little bit more from the back and doing a lot more of the communication and all of that. But I think it's good. I think it's a fair shout. Kaz, what about you? What's your toss into the top 3 players?
I'm gonna just take the obvious one and go with Robbie. I think he's been on a tear lately. I don't know if it's just the baby bump, but he's just been playing really well. Even before the baby came, he's been on a good run. And obviously just being in the right position, getting the goal, in addition to everything else he was doing all game.
Yeah. Can't fault the goal.
Apparently, I guess the baby was there. The baby was with Robbie's wife and mom on the path before the game. So got to see Dad score a goal, maybe.
There you go. Josh, what about you? What's your contribution to this top 3 discussion?
I have a controversial idea and I have a safe one. Part of me wants to say Augie. I know I just made fun of the fact that he missed so many opportunities, but a lot of them were just saved. It wasn't like he missed. He didn't whiff the ball. He hit the post one time, I think, and the rest of them were pretty much on target. They just were saved. And the fact that he was able to get that many shots off, and honestly, that goal doesn't happen if it isn't for Augie, because Augie put the ball in there, made the keeper make a hell of a save. He got his foot onto it and wasn't able to actually trap it. He just kind of barely saved it, and then that's why it rolled to Robbie to make the goal. So with that in mind, like I think Augie is a good shout for this game because he actually had a good game. But my safe option was going to be Griffin, just because I do think Griffin had a good game as well, but very rarely do we get a shout out Augie, and I do think this is a game that he actually was present for and made a lot of havoc for New Mexico.
Yeah,
I love that shout.
Mm-hmm.
I
actually
agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought oddly enough, I thought the goal was probably his worst shot of the game. Like
Yeah.
he had some better ones all game long, and then he sort of fluffed that one. And I think that's kind of why the keeper missed it, because he thought he knew where it was going, but then Augie sort of fluffed it, and it didn't go where he thought it was going to go, and so he kind of had to kick save it, which led to it ending up in the middle of the box where Robbie was. So I think it is interesting to think about that, but I would agree with you. I would have said Jackson Walty, but I couldn't figure out who he was all game long. So
cut his hair. What the heck?
Yep.
that was the problem. I couldn't figure out where he was playing, so I don't know which guy he was anymore. So it is what it is.
I was hanging out, like I said, I was on the side of the field with the pub and everything, and I'm next to a guy. I don't know who he is, but he's like, who just saved that, or who just kicked that? It was one of those, and I'm like, that's Walty. He's like, no. And then we look closer. He's like, yeah. He's like, oh man, no. It was so sad that he cut his hair. That was great.
I made some comment in the middle of the second half to Laura Ellen too, and she's like, "That's not Walty." I was like, "Yeah, actually, no, it definitely is."
Yeah.
And then when he came off for sample, I think in the the substitution window, she's like, "That's not him," and I was like, "Yeah, no, that's him now." Fortunate is what it is. No, I'm particularly content with those three of Dick, Robbie, and Augie. Any thoughts of where they should be ranked?
I think that order, but I would go either way with Robbie and Eric.
Should be so high up. I honestly did not have that in my brain. I thought this was a very offensive heavy game. Did he make that many saves? How many shots on target did they actually have?
I don't know that he made that many saves. He commanded the box really well.
They had
He
3
a couple
shots on
big
target.
saves.
3 shots on target. Okay.
Plus
I
a few
can
crosses
put him
and that kind of
second.
thing that he.
1 blocked shot. Okay. Well, okay. I'm just saying. I don't think Dick should be up that high. I think,
All right, we put Robbie at first.
I'm more okay with that. We're okay with that.
Wait, do you want Augie at first?
No, I just don't
Oh,
even-
okay.
I'm actually questioning the whole Dick option at all as far as in the top 3. But I'm not going to argue if other people agree with you.
I think what's hard about this game, and kind of ranking players on this game is I don't think anybody had a bad game. And so it's like, I think
I didn't think he had a great game.
all had a inexperienced game. I think
I forgot he was on the field. That's all. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I did not even know he was there until he got subbed off. I'm like, oh yeah, I was like,
yeah. I put it in the context. I guess for me, I put that one in the context of I thought Barnes had a pretty good game, and like it for Barnes to have a good game and be able to get up the field, like all had to be doing something, and I don't know what it was doing. If he was creating space or I don't know what he was doing on that side of the field to allow Barnes to have a good game, but I thought Barnes had a really good game as well. And so maybe all had the worst game, but I don't think all had a terrible game. Like it wasn't like, oh, here's a big mistake that all had, and so now he had a bad game. I don't think he had a bad game. He just wasn't as impactful as I think a lot of us wanted him to be at the beginning of the season, but that's okay with me because he's year 1 out of college and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So
that's fair.
I would be okay reconsidering Dick from the perspective of Steve. I think my thought with that is very similar to Josh's of like, I don't know that he actually had that many saves. He did make a lot of good claims in the box of crosses and things like that, but I thought for as offensive as this game was, I feel like somebody on the offensive side of the field should probably be in the top 3.
Of Dick.
Well, I don't know if he wants Griffin though. Do you want Griffin or do you want Walty?
Oh, I don't want Walty. I was just more making a joke about his hair.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to say, Dick has a spot in here, but I think if he has a spot, it's the bottom of the list.
This is the most difficult one we've ever had.
I'm just making it difficult. Everyone else is like, yeah, cool, whatever, that's fine.
So Josh, you want to go Robbie, Augie, Eric? Then?
Robbie, Augie, Eric. Yeah. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, that's
All right.
I could be okay with that as well.
Yeah.
We got a goal and we got a shutout. So I feel like in some
just
way
kidding.
we got to acknowledge both ends of the field.
Yeah.
No, that's true. We did get a shutout, which is a big deal. And I don't know. New Mexico, that travel must have been brutal for them or something, because I guess one thing I do want to talk about with this is the standings. A lot, like I said, was made about New Mexico coming in. They're the top of the West. If you look at the standings in the West, it is wild. They 25 points in first place. They have 5 losses, and they're in first place. 5 losses. And then like 24, 23, 22, 20, 20, 19, 18. So we're talking the first 8 spots is like 25 points to 18 points. That's not a big spread. It's pretty wild how close
there's 10 points between New Mexico and Colorado at the bottom.
Yeah, just 10 points.
Yeah.
They
don't tie. They win or they lose, and that's been their season.
To be at the top of the league in the West and have 5 losses is wild to me. Like you look at ours, and like freaking Louisville has 1 loss, and that's it.
And they're 28 points up on Hartford at the bottom.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Now it does look like we have a couple more games than most. No, it's about the same. So
yeah. What's interesting about that is I think essentially what's happening in the East this year is Louisville and Charleston are essentially just beating up on everybody else, and then it's like and Loudoun did at the beginning of the season as well. So it's kind of like they had 3 teams that were really like really beating up on everybody else, where the West just kind of beats up on each other all the time, and they just nobody can actually get away from the teams behind them, because they're just keep exchanging spots. So I do think that's interesting. All right, so let's I guess we'll land, just to wrap this up, I guess we'll land with Robbie, Augie, Dick as our top 3. We'll go with that.
Someone tell Mike.
There we go. We'll tell Mike.
Get that board updated.
I don't have the board. Where's the
Mondo?
board?
There's your homework.
Is he still in chat?
Probably.
Right.
He always is. I love it.
Who knows? I did want to mention, just kind of coming off this game and kind of looking ahead. It was interesting because I think when the Riverhounds beat NYCFC, we all kind of threw is this a turnaround game? Is this the game that, kind of turns our season around? And it didn't feel like it, because we went to Louisville the next week and drew, and we're like, okay, maybe. And then we lost the next one to Colorado Springs in Colorado Springs. And so I think all of us kind of tempered off of that real quick and went, maybe that wasn't the turnaround game that we needed, and all of that. But what is interesting is in the league, the Hounds are 4-2-1 since that game. So since the NYCFC game, which feels like an eternity ago already. The Hounds are 4-2-1. So the wins came against this most recent one against New Mexico. We beat Rhode Island in the league. We beat Detroit City in the league. We beat Tampa Bay. Rhode Island was on the road. The rest of them were at home. And then our losses were to Indy and Colorado Springs on the road. So Colorado Springs being a West Coast or a Western Mountain Time, but kind of long road trip. Indy also being a little bit of a trip, but not as bad. And then we drew to Louisville City on the road. We're 1-2 otherwise, but those are 3 cup games, beating Westchester and then losing to Rhode Island and Philly in the different cup competitions. So my question for you guys, is the season turning around? Was that NYCFC game the turnaround game that we kind of all thought it would be or hoped it would be when it happened? Josh, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm not ready to call it a turnaround yet. I do think this is the best I felt about this team after this game. I don't know if it is more of a lack of quality coming from New Mexico with a long travel game for them, or if this is actually a turnaround moment. I do think the next game will tell us a lot because we will be playing Loudoun. Loudoun hasn't had the best form for sure in the last couple of games, but it is Loudoun, and they've been good this season. They are above us in the standings. Those other games, I don't know if you can really get much off of like beating Tampa Bay, who is second to last place, or Detroit, who is also not doing great. Granted, they're even with us in points, but we want to be a lot better. We are expecting more from us. So it's like being even with us in points, not that, great. And then Rhode Island's also below us. So like, I want to see how we react to a team that's actually doing good. And this game was that. So I am, willing to say that it does feel like this could be a turnaround moment, but I think the West Coast aspect of it makes it hard to really get a feel for it. So Loudoun's going to be the test, I think, where I'll be able to gauge.
Kaz, how about you? Is Loudoun the test?
Yeah, I mean, probably most, in the end, that's going to end up being the game that could be, okay, this is where we can say, okay, yeah, the league, the season did turn around. I don't think it obviously wasn't like 2023 when we signed Danny and immediately had that like, big stretch of wins and everything else. Same with the 2024 or that was also 2023 when we had the Columbus game. So, it wasn't an obvious like, okay, this is the moment, and we're going to beat everyone the rest of the way. But I think, we could end up looking back on it and going, yeah, that's kind of when the moment started or when the season started to shift in our favor.
Steve, you know how I feel about historical context. Any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, the historical context and the current context make a big, big difference for me. That I'm starting to see some signs that some things are different. Seeing more players in the box, seeing us get more opportunities. And so that is really encouraging. But at the same time, the season doesn't turn around until I see that we can fight back when the pressure is really on. We can fight back when we're down a goal, or that we can put 2, 3, 4 goals in more than a few times out of every other game, right? Like we've got 3 games with 2 goals. We need more than that, and so. Like you and I were talking about before everybody else got on, Justin, that the fact that we are in 5th with 12 goals is mind-boggling to me, right? Like we are giving up less goals than most teams, but we are also scoring less goals than most teams. And so it's just good that our goals against is also less than 1 per game as our goals for, because otherwise it could be really different.
Yeah. Our goal differential in the league is back to a big fat 0. So we are no longer in a negative goal differential situation anymore. So I don't know. That's where it is. And you guys kind of mentioned the standings. I do think it's interesting. We're sitting 5 points behind. I think 5 points behind Loudoun with our next game being against them. That game is next Sunday at 5 p.m. So it's going to be a couple weeks until we get a Saturday game again with a Sunday game and a Friday game. So don't know who did the scheduling for the month of July, but is what it is. But so we'll play Loudoun. We're 5 points behind Loudoun. And Loudoun is in 3rd place. North Carolina is sitting 3 points ahead of us in 4th place. And then we're sitting in 5th place. And we're 3 points back of North Carolina. So I do think it will be interesting to kind of see this next game, what happens if there's any shift in the standings and how that goes. I'll work in reverse order real quick. Steve, what are you expecting? Are you expecting anything against Loudoun, or what are you expecting as we move into that game?
I haven't had enough time to really think that far ahead, honestly, in the sense that, I want to see the things I've been asking for all season, and that's for us to find ways to really put the boot down and score. It comes into, Loudoun's not on the best run of form, but we've seen that they've got players that can change a game. And so going into that game, I don't want us taking it for granted because we've been on a better run of form than they have. It's a toss up for me, and so I just don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Does Fort Highmark play any role for you in that game?
No, only because I don't know that I am convinced that we are seeing evidence of Fort Highmark as opposed to just really, really defensive hounds, regardless of where they are, right? Like I don't know that it's stadium specific. I think it's just they're playing really strong defensively, and the defense is working really well, and so they've got a chance to keep a scoreless game pretty much anywhere they play. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, how about your thoughts on this next game?
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. It's hard to not look at their last few games. I mean, they lost 3-0 to Hartford. So like that's, to kind of start this bad run of form for them. So, fingers crossed it stays that way. But you kind of have to look at yourselves more than the other team. I think the way that we've been playing is, like Steve said, just a little more, players in the box, there's been a little more recently than there has been, and hopefully that continues. And if that does continue, even though they've been generally better than us this season, I think that we can kind of plow right through them and go from there.
Yeah, Josh, your thoughts on the game, and then I don't know if you guys have tailgate plans set up yet or whatever for the different time of day.
Yeah, as far as the game goes, I do think there is something said about their home record right now. Hounds' home record 5-1, so like they are better at home than they are away. 1-5 away, versus 5-1 at home. So like I do think home does help us out a lot here. But with that said, Loudon, they were on that run, and the article came out talking about how disorganized and crappy the whole situation is with their ownership and their money situation, and everything's falling apart over there. But somehow the team was rallying around each other, almost like they had beef with everyone else in the organization, and they were just trying to prove themselves. And it was one of those major league movie type situations, and it felt like the team could do no wrong almost. And now they're starting to have the wheels fall off a little bit. Other than that Hartford game, though, I don't think there's really a bad run here, because like losing against Louisville, yeah, okay, Louisville, they're doing great this year. Losing against Charleston, that's also not a big deal. Or did they draw against Charleston? Yeah, they drew. But still, it's I guess the only game in there that really gives me pause is the Hartford game. But trap tape game happens. I still think Louisville is a good team, and they have something to prove, and this is going to be a hard game. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one, and I think it is going to be a good test to see if the Hounds are actually back. I tend to agree with Steve, and also I think Mondo said it in the chat. They're still just scraping by, though. The Hounds are. We haven't had a come from behind win. We haven't had a strong win. We've just crossed the line, and I agree. That's I need to see a convincing win. Couple Augie goals, at least one Augie goal, and then hopefully like a Mertz goal or a Jackson goal. That'd be great. I want to see a 2-0 win at home against a good team, and Loudon is a good team this year, as much as it pains me to say that. Loudon is a good team, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think it is this is a good test, and I think being at home is nice, and we'll keep riding that as long as we can. But it would be nice to get kind of a statement win of some sort. Thinking kind of back to last year in the 5-0 win. It'd be nice to just get something like that on the board and feel really good about it and move forward from there. So, Josh, any Steel Army plans for Sunday and timing wise?
I don't think we've officially had a time, did we, Kaz? I believe it's usually going to be like 4 hours before the game, though. So I would expect 1 o'clock tailgate, most likely. We might do 12, but I think more likely 1 o'clock.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's what we think about kind of all the things happening in the Hounds and Riveters world. It was a great season for the Riveters. Loved watching them, all that kind of stuff. Hound season seems to be trending up, and the way that's going, so that's exciting, and we'll see where that goes over the next couple of weeks. But let us know what you think. You can find us at Mongols, kind of wherever you can find us. Let us know on YouTube or anywhere you can find us. Let us know what you think and how you think this season's going to turn out. If we're going to get a home playoff win because we're only 3 points out of a home playoff game, which is wild to think about, and we'll go from there. So let us know what you think, and we'll be back with more Hounds and Rivers content very, very soon.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.